Bad leaders in the workplace are costing companies $500 billion a year. A survey conducted by the American Psychological Association states that $500 billion are siphoned from the U.S. economy because of workplace stress. So where exactly do those $500,000 come from? Well, 60 to 80% happen because of workplace accidents, which are attributed to stress, and more than 80% of doctor visits. This means that during that time where the employees were not there, they were not actually, making money for the company, or they were not putting money into the economy because they weren't getting their salaries or they weren't able to make purchases. So all that cost is factored into the $500 billion. That same survey showed that damaged employees have 37% higher absences, 49% more accidents, 60% more errors and defects, and resulted in a 16% lower profitability, 37% lower job growth, and 65% lower share price over time. So let's break those statistics down, okay? 37% higher absences. You're talking that the employee is out of work for a third of the year, right? So this is insane because they're just far more likely to be absent. And not only does that affect, the work environment, and I'm talking about not just for, working for a corporate office or something. I'm talking that it affects the internal team as well, because the people that have to pick up the slack, they're taking on that excess stress from people not being there, right? The fact that somebody is not there 37% of the time is a pretty red flag, because it means that the workers have to pick up the slack. They have to be working the longer hours. They have to be doing other, aspects of their jobs that doesn't necessarily pertain to them. And not only that, but they have 49% more accidents. That is a huge safety risk. You talk to any safety department and you tell them, hey, this employee is a 49% higher risk than the rest. What do you think safety would do? They would automatically terminate him. 49%, you're talking about people's lives that are on the risk. You're even something as simple as being a clerk, and you fall and you trip and, I don't know, rip with snowballs and you hit somebody else by accident. Who knows what could happen, right? You're talking about 49% more likely to do these types of things. And you're not only going to affect yourself, you're going to affect, again, the workplace environment. Now, some jobs being 49% more likely to cause an accident could actually mean somebody's life. And in some jobs, being 49% more likely to have an accident could actually mean the cost of somebody's life, like a truck driver, a forklift driver, maybe a UPS driver, an airplane pilot, who knows, right? There's a lot of situations where the job might actually impact somebody's life. Damaged employees have 60% more errors and defects. You're talking about a ripple effect as to somebody having to come at the end of the year to fix those mistakes. Everybody's been there. We all know what it's like. It's end of the year. You're looking at the books and you say, hey, all these orders, all these sales, all these things are still pending from January, February, March, April. What the heck is going on? We need to go back and finish those. And you're like, oh my God, who didn't do their job? Well, we might know that it's damaged employees according to this, right? Because they're 60% more likely to do these errors and defects. So not only does this cost time at the moment of doing because they're doing it wrong, it actually ripples on to the end of the year when other employees have to take on that task and consume part of their day. They result in 60% lower profitability, which I think is kind of low. I think once you start factoring in all this, and then the fact that it's $500 billion that is siphoned off, it's probably a lot more. Maybe it's 16% directly affected to the bottom line, and then these other ones kind of trickle in there. But nonetheless, 16% lower profitability. I mean, think about the impact on the bottom line, right? Off the bat, imagine if your goal from year to year was increase your bottom line by 10%, and then you know that 16% is going out the door, into the trash due to, damaged employees. 37% lower job growth. That means that they're not really getting promoted. They're not looking for that ideal to move on to the next step. They're kind of sitting where they are, and there's not really any room for advancement with them. And 65% lower share price over time. So what am I getting at with all this, right? Damaged employees, this survey, what is going on? I'm talking about leadership in this video. We are looking at the impact that a bad leader has on the company. When I say damaged employees, I'm not necessarily saying that the employee that is doing all these things are to blame for the fact that there's $500 billion that is siphoned off. No. I'm talking about bad leadership, bad management, bad people in charge that could have seen these errors and put a stop to it, and they didn't. And that's the point of the surveys, is so that we can review them and see how we can better ourselves and how we can improve moving forward. So the last part of the survey says that 50% have voluntary turnover. And if you guys don't know, for the most part, on average, one turnover is equal to 20% of that employee's salary. Okay, so think about it this way. If somebody makes $100,000 and they quit, they have a turnover, the cost of replacing that person is approximately 20%, so $20,000, right? So if you have a high turnover, so you have 5 people quit in 1 year, well, you just spent that entire year's salary just replacing that employee. Okay, it's a rough estimate. Every company is going to be a little bit different. Some jobs where that turnover is higher, where they maybe use third-party contracting services, might be a little bit different, right? But for the most part, it's in that ballpark. The next survey was done by Amazon and Workplace Intelligence, where they surveyed 3,000 workers. Okay, so let's see what these 3,000 workers said. 78% fear that they lack the skills to advance in their career. Now, this survey is going to revolve around a lot of what employees feel at the workplace. Okay, so right off the bat, we see that more than half, almost the entire amount, fear that they don't have the right skills to move forward. As a leader, you need to understand that there's scenarios where you can put your employee in to prepare them for the next step and to kind of guide them there. Now, let's backtrack, because if you have a team of 100 people, do you really think you're going to train all 100 of them on how to be a manager or how to be the next supervisor? Well, no, that would be a little bit insane, right? Because there's just no way. But there could be trainings that you have, or there could be a survey that you send out and say, hey, how many of you want to move on to the next spot? Well, maybe out of those 100, 5 or 10 actually want to move up. And then you say, okay, out of these 10 or 20, whatever, how many people say, I want you guys to come into my office at this time. Let's schedule a date and let's talk about it. And then see how many of those trickle down, right? Because you might only have, in reality, a pool of maybe 5 or 10. And you can just kind of work through that. You can tell them exactly what it means to be a manager in the next step, and maybe assign roles to them and responsibilities that is found for the next task, so that you don't have this issue where 78% feel that they just don't have those skills. And I will say this, that if you don't have employees who are looking at the bigger picture, you're going to have a workforce that isn't functioning to the best of the ability, because that means that people are seeing the lens. That means that employees are seeing this in just their own little circle, and they're not really seeing it as the way of a manager or general manager, and in the sense that they see the entire thing. Rather, they're saying, I don't have the skills to really do that. And they might just say, you know what, I'm stuck in my bubble, I'm going to stick to my lane. And you kind of don't want that. You want them to branch out and take on the responsibilities that are around them and really help unify the group, right? So this is a very big issue. So take note of this. If you're a leader right now, or manager of a team, an owner, business owner, make sure that your team knows the skills needed to advance and train them there, because it's going to be a great asset. Same survey, 71% are concerned they lack education to advance their career. Now, education, yes, I have a master's in business, and does it help? Yes, but there's a lot of skills that you have to learn in the workforce. Now, if they mean education by outside education, there's a lot of corporations who will offer to pay for a bachelor's and a master's, so that's something to consider, right? But more than anything, I think that if the education is actually from not understanding the next role, that is something that you as a manager and a leader and a business owner should be able to take on, because you want to teach the team exactly how to move forward without necessarily, having the education, quote unquote, from a university or something. Because in reality, the education you kind of get from there is generalized, and it depends on the classes, but I'm not going to say it's not important. I learned a lot from doing my MBA, and it opened the doors for a lot of opportunities that maybe I wouldn't have had if I didn't have my MBA. And it also taught me how to research and what exactly to kind of look for when I'm doing research on a corporation or stocks or, anything with finance or economics. But the point is that if they feel they lack the education, it's good to bring this up. So again, this survey was only done with 3,000 people. I mean, that's not an only, that's a good amount. But my point is, ask your team and see if they have these same issues, because you want to work with them if that's the case, and you want to make sure that you give them the tools that they need to succeed, okay? 58% are worried that their skills are outdated. I'm surprised that that one's not higher, because times are evolving at an enormous rate right now. You have AI coming in, you have ChatGPT, you have systems that, read your teams, or not read, but they listen to your team's meetings and then they recap everything. You know that there's an AI system for that, right? It listens to your team's meetings, it recaps everything, and it gives you a script. Like, what in the world? There's a lot of changes that are going on that I'm surprised this one's only 58, because I'm worried of how my skills would change over time and how I would be outdated based on somebody younger coming in and having a lot of these skills growing up and doing that research when they're younger, as opposed to trying to learn it when you're older, right? But there's some, but at the end of the day, the principles are always going to be the same. You can't trump hard work, smart work, if correct operation. Those are the things that you're going to really have to focus on, because yes, there's going to be new skills that come in, but you can always train for those skills. Same survey, 70% feel unprepared for future work. Again, I feel like this goes back to the same thing where they're just not taught exactly how to move on to the next step. If you feel unprepared for the future work, it just maybe means that you don't have the knowledge of how to complete those tasks. So keep an eye on your employees. Ask them these questions. These are some good questions to ask, because it's going to give you a ballpark of how they feel. And as managers, sometimes we think that we're doing everything the right way and that we're giving the information. But if you never really ask, you're never going to really know the truth, right? And being a leader means that you're open to those types of changes, that you're willing to say, okay, yes, I thought I was doing it one way, and I realized that based on my survey results, and I realized from the team that based on the survey results, it's kind of not really like that. So make sure you're able to pivot. Make sure that make sure that you ask the team, see how unprepared they really work. Because let's put it this way, would you want to feel that 70% of your team is unprepared for future work? No, right? This is insane. You don't want to have a team that feels that way. That's 70% of the team that has no idea what's going to happen here in the future, and they have no idea how to plan for it, and they have no idea how to even finish tasks that haven't even been planned out. They're already thinking so pessimistically that as a leader, you want to make sure everybody is gung-ho, they're motivated, they're ready to tackle on the task. Even if they don't understand, they should be able to say, you know what, I'm prepared to work on it. Might be wrong, but I'm prepared to work on it, right? But it feels to me that this survey has a lot of negative answers to it, and it stems from bad leadership, not being able to guide the team to where you really need them and give them the skills they really need to succeed. And think about this. Imagine this is Amazon, guys. This is a huge, probably the top 5 global supply chain, business in there, and they are having these issues. What makes you think right now that in your own business or in the company you work with, you don't have these issues? Find the root problem, start working on it. If you're the business owner, this is affecting your bottom line off the bat, and you want to make sure your team is prepared and ready to tackle any type of issues. All right, same survey. One's a long survey, all right? 64% plan to quit because there aren't enough opportunities for skill development. Again, this is so crazy to me. So 64, more than half are saying that they're willing to quit their job because they don't have the skills to really develop and use those skills for the next opportunity. Like, guys, you need to be able to train your team. You need to be able to be that mentor for them that is teaching them and giving them these skills to want to stay and want to feel like there are opportunities. There might not be a lot of opportunities for them. I'm not saying that, the organization is offering all types of stuff for them to do. I'm not saying that, but you need to prepare them for the opportunity if it arises, or for them to branch out and go somewhere else, because you don't want to limit the employees, ability to work. Don't hoard that knowledge. Share it with the team, get them up to speed, and make sure that they actually feel that they're developing skills. Because you're hearing it from the survey, 64% are willing to quit because of this. 66% plan to quit due to lack of career advancement opportunities. Now, this one is kind of tricky because if you work in a specific location, they just might not have the position that you want. It's just that simple. There's some cities that focus very strong on part of whatever the economy there locally is. It could be logistics, it could be manufacturing, it could be, shopping, it could be retail, it could be warehousing, it could be distribution, it could be something with rails, it could be airplanes. Who knows, right? My point is that the local economy is going to matter a lot here. There just might not be a lot of opportunities. You might have to pivot to a different department within the same field, but maybe something different. And also here, what is really important is your own experience. Because if you don't have experience, you might say, well, there's nothing here for me. But if you only have one area of expertise, well, you're limiting yourself. For example, let's say that you only have experience working in a warehouse. Well, guess what? You limit yourself to only warehouse jobs because you never bothered to learn other aspects of supply chain. So there's a little bit of self-reflection here, but still, right? People will leave. I am guilty of that, a job, if there's no career advancements. And it's in the best interest of everybody, right? You want to, personally, you want to advance your knowledge, your experience. And if the company doesn't offer that, well, then that's when you just have to look for another opportunity. But that isn't really the fault of the business. It's just kind of how the local economy and the way the business is ran kind of flows. You know what I mean? Same survey, 65% wants to leave because there's no way to transition to a new career path or role. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just gonna merge this one with what I said previously. It just kind of depends. It is what it is. There's some departments that favor certain cities for certain things, and that's just how it is, guys. It's not really the business's fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just the way the local economy works. And I'll give you a quick example. If you live in California and you're in Silicon Valley, what type of jobs do you think you're going to get? Right? You're going to get a tech job. If you live in Texas and you live in a border city with Mexico, what type of jobs do you think you're going to get? You're probably going to get some logistics jobs. If you live in a port that's right next to the sea, like Houston, what type of jobs do you think might be strong there? Probably export, import, right? With overseas shipments. It just depends where you live. Same survey, 59% want to make more money. I mean, of course, we all do. And to be fair, that is a valid reason to leave and go to another job. 47% want to impact their team positively. I like this one. I think that number should be higher because that means that half don't want to impact their team positively. But it's good to have, right? You do want to impact your team positively. You do want to be a good leader for them. You want to be somebody that they can trust, that they go to, because that's the whole point of being a manager and being a leader, is being that mentor for them. You need to be a figure that people look up to and people want to impact, that you would want to impact them positively. So I'm kind of shocked it's only 47%. 48% want better work-to-life balance. I'm also shocked that one's only 48%, considering that 64% were planning to quit off the bat, but they're saying they are more likely to quit for no opportunities than they are for a better work-to-life balance. As somebody who is all about balance, I think that you should have a work-to-life balance, but I also am quite aware that I don't have a work-to-life balance, and I focus a lot on side projects. I mean, you gotta get the goal right. You gotta get the bread, but I mean, it's still. If that was me in the survey, I would still say, hey, I want a better work-to-life balance, but I might not practice it. So I guess whatever. 88% have taken steps to enhance what they can deliver at work. I like that. 88% are taking steps to become a better worker, and it's kind of funny because that one is so high, and I feel that those steps that they're taking are going to transition into these other areas where they learn the skills, they get the training, they learn how to take on tasks that they weren't prepared for. So the fact that 88% of them are taking things that they don't have to necessarily do to become better workers is a green light, because it means that people are willing to work outside of work to better themselves professionally, right? And everybody watching these types of videos are doing that already. You're watching a video about statistics on how to be a better leader and how a leader impacts these types of things. So you yourself, you're learning methods on how to at least survey your team to figure out how they're doing. And that's something that, not everybody's doing. So you're part of this 88% technically. 89% priority to develop better skills. Again, same thing. People are willing to go to school. People are willing to do workshops, are willing to do coachings, trainings, mentorships to kind of become a better leader or a better manager or a better employee or a better business owner. And that's very good. 89% of them are saying, I want to better myself. And that is good. I think that's a very good question to ask the team that you have is who wants to better themselves, and not only that, but what are you doing to better yourself? Because I think that's even more important. 89% are saying that they want to develop those skills. How many of them are actually taking steps to develop them? It's going to be a big difference, I bet. This next survey was conducted by Epignosis. It found that 76% of employees are more likely to stay with a company that offers continuous training. Keep that in mind. 76% are willing to stay with a company if you guys offer training. If you're a business owner, if you're a manager, if you're a leader, if you're somebody who has employees under you, please train your team. 76% of employees are willing to stay with you. That is an insane amount of people that are going to stay if you just train them, if you give them the skills. Now, there's only so much you can train, right? Like, let's say that you are the branch manager and you're training the employee, and then you guys kind of cap, right? That's it. You don't know what else to train this person. I mean, you've taught them everything you know. You've brought them up to speed. What do you do next? Well, I don't think there is something else that you could probably do, right? I think that you could cap, but the amount of time it's going to take for them to cap is probably going to be pretty long. And as they're learning, you're learning more skills, and the more skills you learn, the more you can kind of transfer them. But you can also do workshops. You can do workshops within your organization, within your team, where you grab people from different branches, you send them all into one location, they do leadership trainings, they do mentorships, they do all these types of things. And it's very important to do those things because you're learning how to develop, you're teaching them how to develop these skills. And as the survey says, they're more likely to stay because they feel like they're learning not just what they do in their job, but other areas of training that they may not have known they needed those trainings in. You know what I mean? Maybe they learn how to be a better leader when they don't really have anybody under them, but those skills are still good to have because it's preparing them for the next step. This next survey was done in 2012, and it shows that 91% of employees are expected to leave their job in less than 3 years. This was 12 years ago, and I don't think that statistic has changed. This is something that wasn't an issue back in like the 1980s, 1990s, but it is now. There's a lot more turnover because employees are willing to go into other companies, into other organizations that before that didn't used to happen. This statistics from 2012 is saying that 91% will leave in less than 3 years. I'm guilty of that. I'm not going to lie. Straight up, I'm guilty of that. And the reason why I did it is just I needed more tasks. I needed to learn more. I kind of capped out and I learned what I had to learn pretty quickly. And I said, you know what? I don't want to sit here. I don't want to get complacent. I need to move on to the next step. What's next? So that's why I did it. Now, I'm sure there's other people who do it for other reasons. Maybe they don't like the workplace. Maybe they thought the work was going to be a certain type of way and they get there and they have a bad leader. But nonetheless, this survey is very important because if it is due to a bad leader, this could be a pretty high percentage. Now, I wish that the survey was deciphered more and it would really show you why they left and kind of broken down, but it didn't. So we just have to work with the 91%, but that's still a really high number. The last survey was done by Forbes, and it reports that 77% of organizations report gaps in leadership. Okay? 83% of managements believe developing leaders at every level is important. So this is very good because at least it's saying that 83% of people can all agree that if you develop a leader at any points in their career, it's beneficial, which I completely agree. If you have somebody at the very bottom of the totem pole and you're developing them to be a leader, it's going to benefit your team because they're going to start thinking strategically, which is what you want. You want strategic thinkers. You want people who think outside the box, and a leader is somebody that thinks outside the box, and that's what you want to train for. 94% of employees want people who think beyond the management principles. They want leaders who create meaningful experiences for their teams. 100% guaranteed. Yeah, you don't want somebody who's just a manager. I've mentioned this before, but you don't want a person who is just all about SOPs, all about policies, all about what the book says, because the moment that something doesn't turn out exactly how it's supposed to, You need to flip the switch. You need to go from a manager to a leader, and you want to be able to pivot. And that is where you need to think beyond the management principles. And that is what separates a leader from a manager. A leader is somebody who doesn't need the books. A leader is somebody who doesn't need the principles, who doesn't need all these types of theories, all these books, all these SOPs, these policies. No, a leader will be innovative and they will craft their own method and they will get the job done. But it might not be the best way to do it. And it might not be the most efficient way, but it's a path that gets you there. Okay? I think that's a very good stat because it's saying that they understand the importance of having somebody that can be a strategic thinker and that can set the path and get the goal completed. Now, I really like this one. 80% of employees are willing to quit if they receive no appreciation from their leaders. What do you think that says about the workforce right now? Just think about your team. Think about the people you lead. Think about the operators that you work with. How many times have you showed appreciation to them in any sort of way? If right now you're thinking, man, I haven't, then this might be a video for you to really consider, right? At this point, you might want to do that. If you're thinking, why would I do that? That makes no sense. I don't want to show appreciation for them to do their job. That's what they get paid for. You are going to see a higher turnover rate. You're going to see bad performance. You're going to see people not putting in 100%. And you're going to see that 80% of them are going to be willing to quit because you're not doing that type of stuff. And if you think that you are the exception, then I'm sorry, but you're not. I've worked in management for a long time. I've asked employees, I've done surveys myself. I've seen the numbers. People will quit if they're not appreciated. It's that simple. Go in, show them appreciation. Doesn't matter how small it is. Be grateful that they work for you. Be grateful that you have a good team. And make sure you guys show that to them. And that's it for today's video. There's a link down below to our school community where you can reach out to me. I will do monthly Q&As. I will answer any questions you have about your business, about your personal life, any life coaching, business mentorships, any of that sort. You can always reach out to me there. I also have a link to our website where if you're interested in me reviewing your company's P&L, recruitments, any spreadsheets that you may need help with revamping, personal W-2 resumes, interview preparations, life coachings, all that type of stuff is down below on the website. Take a look at it, and I'll see you in the next video.